Welcome back to a camera comparison. This time around I've got the battle of the ultra phones here. So we have the Vivo X200 Ultra up against the Xiaomi 15 Ultra and then the Oppo Find X8 Ultra. So three ultra phones here, front facing cameras. We have 50 megapixels with the Vivo and the other two are 32 megapixels using electronic image stabilization. As I walk down these stairs here, all three of them do look steady. And how are they handling the shadow now as I step into the shadow? Bit of a jog here to get myself back in the sun. And we'll see how the auto exposure is handling this. There we go, which one looks the best here and the steadiest. Rear video 4K with our ultra wides. So it's got electronic image stabilization. Looking at the church here at Altea with those traditional terracotta blue and white tiles on the top. So pan around, we shouldn't see any judder, any drop frames. I just go over to the main cameras now. And it's pretty busy at the moment here. Great weather. So in the background we have Benidorm. And this is where I'm going to apply a little bit of zoom here. So the main cameras at the moment with the electronic and optical image stabilization. This is 3 times with the Oppo, 3 times preset with our Xiaomi, and 2.5 preset with the Vivo. And I'm going to keep zooming now. And we'll bring this up to now 6 times with our Vivo and 6 times here with the Xiaomi. There we go, that's now 6 times. And 6 times zoom with the Oppo. Low light video. This is 4K 30 frames per second to match the rest of my timeline. And in low light, really 4K 30 is probably your best bet there. 60 would not look as good as this does. As I walk ahead, which one is the steadiest? Has the best exposure, least amount of noise here, and hopefully the least amount of jarring too as I do walk. So just going to pan very slow. Which one do you think has the best low light video performance out of these 3 ultra phones here? The Xiaomi, the Oppo, or the Vivo? Onto stills now, and remember this is going to go pretty quick, so you have pause if you need to look at these in a bit more detail. So with the super macro shot, this one, I'm looking at the different shades of all those colors, and it's the Xiaomi that did the best job. So that gets the win here with the macro mode across all 3. Portrait mode, so what I'm looking at is the stitching, the skin tones, background blur, and it is the Vivo and the Oppo that are very close here. The Xiaomi's white balance and the skin tones are a little bit off. Cropping in now, you can see that the Vivo has the best stitching, but the skin tones are more correct with the Oppo, which is going to get the win here for me. It's the best, I think, looking portrait photo. Zoom shot at a fast-moving subject here, which is our cat Snow, and all 3, again, are looking very good. Most people will go for the Vivo because this is where Snow is looking at a different direction. His eyes look a little bit brighter, but it is in fact the Oppo that has the better colors when it comes to his white fur and the dark brown around his eyes. With this photo of Vera and the previous photos, I'm using the Leica Authentic Zeiss Natural Color modes. And again, it's actually the Oppo that has the correct white tones for Vera's fur. However, I do like the look of the 35mm of our Vivo. Nice depth of field to it, better background blur. And the blacks of Vera's fur do tend to look, I think, a bit better there with more details in different shades. So the Vivo for the win. With the selfie portraits here, I did forget to turn on the background blur with the Vivo. It looks good, the skin tones, because it hasn't applied any smoothing. I've got the beautifying off. The Oppo definitely does have some skin smoothing there, but with this shot, I think the Xiaomi looks the best when it comes to portrait selfies. HDR ultra-wide photos. It is the Vivo that has the best ultra-wide sensor, and the processing here is very good with that Zeiss Natural Profile. You see it hasn't blown out the sky like the others. We get good HDR, more details, overall the best looking ultra-wide shots with the Vivo. With this shot, the Vivo pulls ahead again with the way it has handled the exposure of those buildings in the middle and the clouds in the background. And then with our main camera, the Vivo gets in a bit closer because it's 35mm. I kept all three of them to their main cameras, and this is at 1x to keep it fair, because if I did bring the other two up to 35mm, that's applying some digital crop there and it wouldn't look as good. But I think the Vivo shot, it's personal preference if you like the 35mm. All three of these phones are very capable zoom phones. They have their ultra branding to them with the powerful zooms. And you can see that this is a 10x shot across all three. All of them look good, but when you crop in, this is now 200%. I'm not too happy with some of the more noise that's coming through with the Xiaomi, with some of those plants there, the Vivo as well. They're neither really, all of them in fact, aren't amazing. The Oppo has the best optical zoom advantage here of 6x, but I do think probably the Xiaomi is the best here with this shot. Again, looking at 10x here, it does seem that it's the Vivo that gets in a bit closer there with its field of view. However, it's missed in the sky most of the details. It's very hard to see, but there's a very small little cloud there just above that rock formation in the distance that the Xiaomi and the Oppo did end up picking up. With this shot, the more true-to-life colors are in fact from the Xiaomi. The Oppo's not quite right there. And all up, it's the Xiaomi that gets the win with this second zoom shot. Here you can see with this shot that the color science across all three is slightly different. Now, the Oppo's completely lost the white balance here. It's a little too saturated as well. It's also overexposed. The buildings were quite white in the sun, but not as white as the Oppo showing here. So that's last place. The colors with the Xiaomi are looking excellent, very good. This is the authentic preset. And then the 35mm of the Vivo I like, but a lot of people would probably like the Xiaomi here, fits a bit more in the shot. Of course, I could have used the ultrawide with the Vivo. And here's a third example where the Oppo, a lot of people will probably like the colors. It is pleasant, but it's not looking true to life here. The sea wasn't quite that color, that shade, neither was the sky. So Oppo gets the skin tones right. And for me, it is the portrait master so far. But with situations like this, it fails a little here. Now, I like the shot of the Vivo there. 35mm again with more of a crop in. It hasn't got the wide field of view, but I like it. I do like 35mm. Not all people will agree with me on this. But then we have that fantastic ultra wide we can also fall back on too. So I like the Vivo shot here. Close second is the Xiaomi. Now, this is where things are really tested and it gets interesting. That is low light performance now. So we have two 1-inch type sensors with the Xiaomi and the Oppo. Does that automatically give them a win? Is it going to make them a champ? Is the 35mm looking a little bit better in low light? Personally, I think it is. I like the depth of field, the background blur we're getting with the Vivo. The colors here with the Zeiss natural presets are looking the more true to life. We have a bit of a warm tint with the lights that we're here. And that has been reflected in this photo. I like the mood of the shot too with the Vivo. Cropping into 200%, you can see that the Oppo was also slightly blurred, that the focus wasn't amazing with this shot. Low light zoom photography, this is at 10x across all three. You can clearly see that it's the Vivo that is miles ahead of the other two phones that looked a little bit blurry and lacked detail. Main cameras at 1x, you can see that there's a bit of a difference across all three. Now, quite bright looking, but lacking sharpness and focus is the Oppo. The Xiaomi, I think, is the best shot here. I do like it. It captures the mood quite well. And then the Vivo, here I feel that it's just a little too close to field of view. Not as good at the 35mm for this type of shot. In low light, I found that the Vivo's ultra-wide is the best. It's got the most detail, the sharpest, the least amount of lens flare, and that was also obvious in video too. But here it looks the clearest and the best of the three. As for low light selfies, well, I found it's the Xiaomi has the most amount of noise. That came in last place. And overall, I think the more pleasant low light selfie comes from the Oppo. In general, with our main cameras, this is at 1x. I find that the Vivo had the brighter images, the more details. If you have a look at that middle window there, you can see that it captured a bit more detail with the Vivo. And then looking at this light bulb, I really like the shot of the Vivo here. The background blur with the 35mm is looking very good. But you don't see that much of the surrounding photo, of course. I could have stepped back a little bit, and that may have helped here, but I kept all the phones in the same position, this one. And the Xiaomi, I think, is a very close second there too. And the Oppo shot is also fantastic. All three look good. It's down to personal preference with this last photo. Recapping my findings now. So for the vlog video performance, that was at the start of the video, I felt the Oppo had the best stabilization. Xiaomi audio quality was the richest from their microphones. And rear video, well, the best stability came from the Vivo, which I felt gave it the win really with that stability and slightly better looking video quality from the rear cameras. So daytime stills, macro shots went to the Xiaomi, portrait photos went because of the skin tones to the Oppo. The Vivo was also very good. That was a close second. And general kind of main camera shots, very good from all three. If you like the 35mm look, then the Vivo is the one to go for. Not everyone's going to like that, I don't feel. But remember, we've got that excellent ultrawide the Vivo has, which is the best, also the best at low light. Now, the selfie shots, I feel, went to the Xiaomi. All up, you can't go wrong with all three of these excellent flagship ultra phones. Thank you so much for watching this video, and do you agree with my findings here? And also, do you agree with Vivo's move to use 35mm for the main camera and not 23mm?